Welcome to Wes Watches. Wesley here. Look, I got a video here that is from a guy called Matt Walsh. Now, the first video I ever saw of him, it was I think the video was something like, "What is a woman?" or something like that, and he was sort of debating this girl, trans woman, on what gender is basically, and I agreed with the points that he made. That's nothing against trans people, by the way. That's just saying I agreed on the points that he made in his arguments in that particular video. I didn't watch the whole. I don't know how long the whole thing was, but it was just like I think it was like a 5-10 minute clip. Since then, I started like doing some research into the guy, thinking, okay, he seemed a bit interesting. Seems like he might know what he's on about. But then I've seen some controversial shit that, for me personally, kind of pisses me off a little bit. And some of the stuff he comes out with. I mean, he's obviously an intelligent guy, but then when people are clearly racist and try and hide it, that's where I'm like, well, you're not obviously very intelligent, because you think you're smart enough to sort of hide behind certain words that, no offense, black people and anyone of color who's been discriminated against, we notice when someone's saying even the N-word. I can say it on YouTube, I think, because I see loads of people say it. But so I know when someone's calling me a nigger, and when they're saying, "Yo, what's up, my nigga? Yo, my nigga." It's not just about the facial expressions or saying, "Oh, I said it nicely." Nah, that there has to be this energy about it. And if you're gonna say it, if you want to say it, and even then, if you start saying it too much, brothers start going, "Well, why are you saying it too much? Why are you doing that?" But anyway, I'm a little bit digressing, but it is linked to this subject, right, of Matt Walsh. So his video already disturbs me. And it says how stereotyping can save your life. Now, since some of the footage here, I guess, like, is this is going to be, I guess, an over 18 video. So I'm going to have a puff in between this video and see what he says. I watched this when it first came out, and this is why I felt to do a video on it, because I felt a comment was not enough. So yeah, let's jump into this, man.
For our daily cancellation today, we are canceling the daily cancellation just for the day so that I could talk about something a bit more serious. Yesterday, we discussed the story of the leftist activist in Philadelphia who was murdered in his home after spending the previous several years aggressively downplaying the violent crime problem in his city. And he mocked those who pointed out that Philadelphia had become a crime-ridden wasteland, and then he himself ultimately fell victim to the problem that he denied. So it turns out that reality still exists and will assert itself even if you have your head firmly planted in the sand. And that was in Philadelphia. Now we have a story out of New York with some very similar themes. The Post-Millennial reports a stabbing took place early Monday morning in Brooklyn's Bedford Stuyvesant neighborhood, claiming the life of poet and far-left activist Ryan Carson. The 32-year-old was walking down the sidewalk with his girlfriend when he was attacked by a stranger. A video emerged of the incident. It shows the couple sitting on a bench on the sidewalk when a man walks past them in a black hoodie. The man crosses the street, walks half a block down, then begins kicking over scooters in the street. The couple rise and walk in the same direction when the man turns around and approaches the couple. The couple continue walking toward him. A confrontation ensues wherein Carson puts up his hands and seems to attempt to dispel the tension. The man gets closer to him and Carson pushes him off. Surveillance footage cuts to after the stabbing with Carson on the ground and his girlfriend standing by him. The attacker makes a motion toward her as well before moving off. According to the New York Post, the incident took place shortly before 4 a.m. on Monday, just near a bus stop. Okay, so there is a video, as it says, of the incident. I'm not going to play the part where Carson is actually stabbed to death. No reason for anyone to watch that, but I want you to see everything that led up to this murder. Watch.
Don't forget, the title of this video is How Stereotyping Can Save Your Life. Even before I'd watched this, I sort of knew where this is going. I thought, I bet the guy's going to be black or someone of color, because you can stereotype in other ways to do with gay people or this, that, and the other. But let's just be honest, when it comes to this sort of like story that's coming up, yeah, chances are it's gonna be a black guy. But it doesn't matter about the white people that have done about 1 million school. You know what I mean? So it doesn't say much about them, but let's see where this goes, and I'll break it down as we go. Okay, so far I've seen a little bit of a problem. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong. Matt Walsh at first said that a couple was sat there, they then walked in the direction of a guy that was kicking down scooters. That guy that just walked past, I didn't see him kick down any scooters. He walked past them. Alright, he's got his hood up, but he looked like he was walking relatively normal. The point that Matt Walsh made was that they started getting up and following him after he kicked scooters down. That's not the case. They obviously were probably thinking to go anyway. Some guys just walked past, they're minding their own business, they're saying, "Hun, should we go? And then they get up and walk in the same direction as another human being. That's not unusual. That's just normal. And if you look, it looks pretty well lit from here, so I don't see why you would immediately right there feel threatened by just the fact that a guy's walked past you with a hood up. From what this footage is showing me in opposed to what you've just said. Oh, I guess now the scooter bit's happening. See, that's fucked up. That kid's fucked up. Straight up. That's messed up. The kid's messed up. I don't know what the hell's wrong with that kid, if he's on drugs or if he's just got an attitude, angry, part of a gang. I don't know. His race should not matter. Stereotyping should not make that is not gonna be that's not a good outcome. The moment that guy started kicking down those bikes and you heard it, you couldn't see it in the footage. What the guy and the woman should have done is just turned around and then just said, he should have grabbed his woman and said, "Babe, what, we're going the other way." Like, do you know what I mean? And also that guy, some people do stand up to people. I've stood up to bullies, man. I've stood up to teenagers and I could have got attacked. Literally, I've done that for my local shop. You can ask the local police. I had to give a statement the next day because they saw me, as in the police saw me, and then they wanted to get a statement. Sometimes you do, you step in. I want to see how Matt Walsh somehow turns this into a thing about stereotyping.
I'm so sorry. Are you Go watch him. I'm so sorry. No.
Now, this is obviously very sad to see. It's tragic anytime a deranged, violent, useless social parasite who's been left to roam the streets by our even more useless justice system randomly murders someone.
That I agree. People like that should not be on the street like that. Crackheads, all of those sort of people, man. Also, they shouldn't be beaten down and then just released and then just because then they come out even more angry. If the police treat them with police brutality, how do you think they're going to come out of prison? Better than what they went in? Or worse? More angry? More like the system doesn't care? I guarantee it's like, oh, well, the police have the right to use force. Yeah, they do. But they also have the obligation, it's called a duty of care, to de-escalate a situation and actually try their hardest to not use force. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. But hey, what do I know?
It's obviously always a terrible thing. And also we should acknowledge that Carson appears in that video to place himself between the crazy guy and his girlfriend, potentially saving her life in the process, and that takes real courage.
Yeah,
so it's not for the sake of gloating, obviously, that we point out that Carson was not only a far-left activist, but according to reporting from Andy No, was a self-described Antifa member, and his girlfriend, No reports, had previously posted anti-cop sentiments, writing that the police do not protect you, along with ACAB and BLM. Now, these details are relevant not because we want to dunk over a dead body, but because there are very important lessons.
That guy's still dead as far as I can see. He's still laying on the floor. I don't think if police having more money or less money would affect that. What I would say would affect that is putting more actual money into proper programs to get young people, the youth clubs and things that they can do to do with maybe music, to do with dance, to do with just being social, having a social group, using like an old abandoned building and converting that into some sort of young social group. We used to have one, I don't know if we still do, because obviously I'm not a kid anymore, But we used to have one in the middle of our town centre, in our local church, every Saturday. Like, there was 3 or 4 volunteers, and we all went down there. They had microphones, so we could. Sometimes I even did my first like little rap battles there. It makes a difference, but don't sit there and then just sort of be like, oh, well, you know, because she said defund the police, she's probably talking about the fact maybe they don't need so many guns. They use their guns too much. So, or maybe they're saying, do you need so many, you know, gas grenades or this, that, and the other? And I don't know what her argument was, but by her being a left-wing activist and then, well, the husband was a left-wing activist and she was left-wing that said defund the police. You don't know what her exact arguments for that were. She might have had a family member who died from a police attack. And that could have been de-escalated, which I think most of us, if that had happened, we'd have a bit of a funny feeling about the police, wouldn't you? Or that officer, or guns. So, again, Matt, you're not actually saying what their views were. You just said they were a left-wing activist and that she said defund the police. You use the typical buzzwords that get right-wingers and MAGA types riled up.
He learned in order to prevent this sort of thing from happening in the future. So let's review this.
Yeah, let's review
First of all, Ryan and his girlfriend are out walking the streets of Brooklyn at 4 a.m. Now, I don't know what they were doing out there or why they were out there. The Daily Mail claims that they were waiting for a bus, but in the video, you can see them getting up from the bench and walking away from it towards someplace else. But even if they were taking the bus, you don't walk in the city at 4 a.m. and you don't take public transportation in the city at 4 a.m.
They were going to go for the bus, but they walked away from it. Yeah, well, maybe they were hungry. Maybe they thought, oh, should we just quickly grab something to eat? You know, we still got maybe 20 minutes for the bus. That's normal. And plus, she's wearing a dress. It looks like they've just went out. Maybe she wants dessert and goes, actually, I do fancy ice cream. And he's like, oh, I'll buy you one from, you know, local. They do a nice one down here. You know, I don't know. He's very quick to make things very ominous and dark instead of giving both sides, even though he tries to portray it like he's sort of trying to give both sides by, oh, well, this could be a possibility, yes. But then he just goes on this long tirade of how it could be completely negative, and that's what he believes. So let's continue. Excuse me.
Everything is more dangerous after dark in the city, and every person you encounter has a greater likelihood of doing you harm. That's not paranoia, it's just the reality. So mistake number 1 was being there in the first place. Second, he sees...
Right, so basically what he's saying is that it's you know, you have a lot greater likelihood, especially in Brooklyn, of getting attacked or robbed at night or something like that. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Isn't that true anywhere? You have a greater chance of getting robbed anywhere in the world at night. No one robs people in the day unless you're like, you know, highly skilled trained bank robbers or something, you know, Larry Lawton. Just generally that, like, what he's saying is very generic. And then also the fact that he says they shouldn't be there in the first place. Are you kidding me? So 2 grown adults should not be out at night in the first place. Now, I've got an idea he's going to say because it's in Brooklyn. Okay, Brooklyn may not be the safest place. No offense, neither is my area. But again, like, most of the time, if you're not in a gang and you're just minding your own business, which they were, 9 times out of 10, people leave you alone. Especially if they're in gangs and stuff. They don't want to be messing with people that are not in gangs and stuff because their families will call the police and it draws attention to them. So, unless it's a gang affiliated thing or something like that, or someone's, you know, most people will kind of just leave you alone. Or, yeah, you might get robbed, don't get me wrong. In sort of Brooklyn, Compton, things like that. If you're an outsider, I understand it works differently in those type of neighborhoods. The proper ghetto, the proper G's. But again, like, these people were just doing their own thing. You can't say, well, just don't go to the area at all. That means, you know, you don't know why they were there necessarily. They might have been visiting a family member who's dying and just went there, and it was just on the off chance that happened. I mean, you just don't know, and yet you seem to be jumping to so many conclusions.
Everything is more dangerous after dark in the city, and every person you encounter has a greater likelihood of doing you harm. That's not paranoia, it's just the reality. So mistake number 1 was being there in the first place. Second, he sees the lone black male in a hoodie walk by at 4 a.m., and he and his girlfriend immediately get up and walk the same direction. They don't even wait for a few minutes to let him pass and put some distance in between them. They decide to head his direction when they're 20 feet away from him. They don't cross the street, as they should have done. They don't turn and walk the other way, which also would have been a better choice. They walk right towards him, which was mistake number 2. And third, when the guy goes crazy and starts knocking over scooters or whatever he was doing, Carson continues to walk towards the commotion. And when the crazy guy notices them and starts screaming at them, Carson tries to engage, telling him to chill, as if he had any chance of calming a knife-wielding psycho who's going berserk on a street corner in the middle of the night. And as soon as the crazy guy started yelling at Carson, saying, "What are you looking at?" and, et cetera, Carson still could have probably escaped with his life if he had simply turned and crossed the street and don't stop making eye contact, just go the other way.
Where the hell do I start? Right, I don't see so far what the fact that he's black has got to do with it. You get white men in Compton, yeah, maybe it's more predominantly black, but most places in America are predominantly white. When a white person does a crime, you don't hear on the papers, white man attacks this, blah, 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 blah. You just hear man attacks black man, possible racism. It doesn't put white man attacks black man, even if it is racially related. He's feeding the stereotype, so he's basically trying to make you scared of all hooded black men, right? Now, I'd say you know what? If you want to be scared of anything out of those two things, be scared of hooded people. People that are hooded unnecessarily in the middle of the day, even at night, if there's a massive group of people and they're all hooded up, yeah? I think that is something to fear more than if I saw a group of black or white people that don't have hoods on, that are just dressed, all right, they've got jeans on, and maybe they have got hoodies, but they're all down, or they're just wearing a jumper and a hat. I don't see the colour as the problem. I see it as more of, if anything, people that are just, proper acting dodgy in their body mannerisms, their hood being up. I think you can just tell, you've just got a natural radar for this sort of thing. And as for Matt Walsh saying then about when the guy started going crazy, they kept walking towards him. Yeah, a lot of people, not being funny, would. A lot of people would just be like, okay, some people would cross the street straight away, but some people would just be like, look, don't talk, let's just go around him. Let's go, he's kicking them over, he's concentrating on the bikes, let's just go around him and carry on. It wasn't maybe the best move. You just do what you feel right at the time. He might have had that person that we were watching that unfortunately ended, they might have had other situations like that where they've just walked around a person and it's been fine. And it could have been a crazy white guy, could have been crazy Chinese. It doesn't matter what race they are. Some people are just crazy, some people are just horrible people. And it's this emphasis on the black straight away and all of this stuff. You started off with the neighborhood, which is already kind of people know more to do with black people. And I agree that maybe with the confrontation, but you're saying when the guy started saying what you're looking at, that he could have just looked down and crossed the street and avoided confrontation. I disagree with you there, Matt. If someone is that mad that just for looking at them, I mean, you can sometimes get away with it, but then they scream at you, yeah, pussy and shit like that, and you have to either shut the fuck up in front of your woman or in front of your family member, and you feel like a bitch, or you say something back. And yes, I know you sometimes got to swallow your ego for your own protection, but what I'm saying is these sort of people that are that fucked up to do that, sometimes they'll just come and fucking do something to you anyway. So, and a guy that is going to stab him, and what did he stab him for? Nothing. So do you think if he turned his back after he goes, what you looking at, and just shut his mouth and turned his back on him and walked off, that guy could have just took it as, what, now you ignoring me, yeah? And then stabbed him from the back. Do you not see how could have went the other way? It could have went anyway. So I don't agree with what you're saying there.
And gotten himself and his girlfriend out of the situation. But he didn't do that. Now, there's a whole list of common sense judgment calls that Carson could have made, but he didn't. And now, tragically, he's dead because of it. This is where his status as a far-left activist comes into play. Not for making fun of him, but for potentially understanding why he made this series of glaring, easily avoidable errors. Now, we cannot know for sure what was in his head at the time. But we do know that leftist ideology will not allow its adherents to make common sense judgment calls because those judgment calls are based on stereotypes. According to Carson's ideology, it would make him racist to cross the street and avoid that interaction. It would be judgmental. It would be marginalizing. It would be otherizing. leftist ideology would rather that you be killed than you make those kinds of assumptions. Even if your assumption...
Stop there. Stop. Hang on. 1 sec.
...are statistics...
Oh, sorry. 1 sec. Okay, right. See, this makes no damn sense. This is where he's totally lost me. Completely, boom, lost me. So look at me. Brown man, black man, whatever. I'm classed as black. Yet again, some mixed race or full black people say you're not black. And then some fucking white people always call me black. Seriously. So you would fear me because I'm walking up to you right now. And I'm not doing nothing wrong. I'm walking past you. And he's saying because left ideology is that judgment calls are based on stereotypes, right? But he's putting it down to like, you know, if you're black or if you're this or if you're that or if you're that. No. Judgment calls are based on your experiences growing up, what you've been taught, what you've been partly conditioned to believe, I suppose, to some degree. Again, experience is the main thing because it covers a lot. It could be, you know, where you've traveled, who you've met, what experiences you've had with certain cultures. If you've had just negative experiences, it might put you off. But a really intellectual person would not go, well, just, you know what? Because I've had 100 bad experiences with Indian people, that means every single Indian's a complete asshole. Like, that just makes no logical sense. It's not a race as a whole. And this is the thing, like, even races do not always believe in exactly the same thing. That's why people within their own race still disagree and fall out. So to say that all black people or Indian people or white people are the same, it's just it's stupidity. Because if we all were the same, we'd all have exactly the same ideology, the exact same beliefs, the exact same thought process, the exact same traditions in our households. And it's not always like that. There's loads of different families out there that could be Rastafarian or, you know, whatever. Yes, you may have a cultural heritage and something that you typically do as a community or even as a country. But even still individually, you still have differences. What Matt Walsh is trying to say is, you saw a black guy in a hoodie, you should have crossed the street and just basically dust off out of there straight away. But then if you say anything like this, then you'll just come across as racist and you'll come across as this. And well, yeah, because that's what you're doing. You're saying that because he obviously didn't believe in stereotypes, that stopped him living. Now he's dead because of what that guy did. So the white guy did exactly the same thing, started kicking bikes down, had a knife on him, and he would have done probably the same thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. Normal people, don't matter what race, colour, creed you are, religion, normal people don't walk around with knives in their pockets. That's not just a black thing. Unfortunately, again, if you concentrate properly on the right resources to these areas to stop them being in poverty and give them opportunities and make the areas, those areas a little bit better, then guess what? People won't feel they need to carry knives and go gang versus gang, because no one will be in gangs, because you've put money into their schools, you've put money into their justice system, into the education of police officers and teaching them not to be so discriminatory against black people and all of these different things. So, you know, that would help areas like these become better. Not just Matt Walsh sitting there saying, don't go there, just don't go there. The fact you're there in the first place, like, give me some options, bro, apart from, oh, there's a black guy in the middle of Brooklyn, shouldn't go there. See, that's again a horrible thing to say. I was a lefty when I was younger, but when I was younger, yeah, lefty meant you just cared about the planet and stuff. Like, but you also knew about defending yourself and stuff. It wasn't like this far left, far right stuff. Not when I was a lefty. Just go up to any normal person and say a man was killed while trying to defend his woman, even though he didn't start it. They were walking and they walked behind this guy. He started kicking down bikes. Instead of running, they tried to walk past him or something, and then the guy got stabbed. Most people would just go, that's awful. That's terrible. Very few people, I think, would say, oh, well, what colour was he? Or what political affiliation was he? Was he Republican? Was he Democrat? Or in England, was he Conservative? Or was he Labour, you know, or Liberal? no one would ask that. People would just be like, wow, that's awful. But the way you phrase these things, the way you phrase, oh, what do you think about a black man that has killed a white left-wing activist in the... Do you know what I mean? You phrase it in such a way that you're making people think about political motives and stereotypes before you've even got to the fact the person's been killed. Like...
Even if your assumptions are statistically justified, especially if they're statistically justified. Leftist ideology says it's better to die than that. And Ryan Carson did.
It's a real serious issue, yet he decides to plug his sponsor. That's the word I was looking for, his sponsor.
Now, this has become a major problem. As human beings, we should have an innate ability to calculate risk, recognize patterns, and assess potential hazards, and most of this should be automatic, almost unconscious. This basic level of situational awareness, it's what keeps you alive. But leftism has been working for years to interfere with that process, to kind of short circuit that hardwired programming that we all have, and to negate our ability to run these kinds of assessments. In fact, the whole mental process...
I think he's going too extreme. Like, I think the left, the extreme left these days is a bit too weak, too sort of soft and too like, oh yeah, and you know, we are losing a bit of our masculinity in the left side. On the other hand, being extreme right means that you're just becoming a tyrant. That's not what a man is. A man, yeah, should be able to protect his woman, should bring money to the table to some degree and all this. I don't really see myself as a lefty and I don't see myself as a righty. I just see myself as kind of in the middle, because there's certain things with the right that, not extreme right, just the right, that certain things I agree with, and on the left there's quite a lot I agree with, especially when it comes to the environment. So this guy's clearly far right. I don't think he's just the standard right conservative.
As I just described, in their religion, the religion of leftism is called unconscious bias and implicit bias. And it's something that they say we should actively reject. You know, according to leftism, when our gut says that guy looks dangerous, or don't walk that way, or this...
Sorry, I really wanted to have a portable mirror then and just show it to the TV screen. Unconscious bias, yeah, look at what he's doing.
They say we should actively reject. You know, according to leftism, when our gut says that guy looks dangerous, or don't walk that way, or this seems kind of sketchy, we're being driven by the racism embedded deeply in our subconscious, and we should ignore it. You know, the proper response, they say, is to ignore what our gut is telling us and charge ahead. And this is not a straw man. Like, go up to any DEI professional and ask them. Show them the first part of that video before we get to the stabbing and the guy going crazy. You got the two white guys the white people on the bench. Lone black male in a hoodie walks by 4 a.m. in the city.
DEI hire. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. What is with these right people with the diversity? Bruv, it's just saying that companies should not be discriminatory against people of color. That's all it's saying. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that you, by law, have to have a certain amount of black people, a certain amount of Chinese, a certain amount of Indians. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden every company has to just hire a bunch of black people because they're black with no qualifications, because that's what a lot of the right is trying to push. And do you think these companies want to bankrupt their business with people that don't have qualifications just because they got to meet some DEI quota? No. So I don't really understand where he's trying to go, apart from trying to gaslight a bit.
Reading off his script. One who works in
by the way, as you can see, I'm not reading off no script. I'm literally looking at the TV that I've got him playing on and then talking straight to the camera. And sometimes, I do lock off, because when I'm thinking like that, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?
DEI. Would it be okay for those two white people on the bench to look at that guy and say, I think I'm going to go I'm going to cross the street? They will all tell you no. No, if you do that, you're racist.
Well, you are.
No, you have to decenter your whiteness and dismantle white supremacy.
I'm looking at him and going, because he's black, I'm going to cross the street. Yeah, that's racist. And then he's saying, oh, it means we have to decentralize our whiteness. So this is what I mean. It doesn't make sense. Like, if you see a person that looks dodgy to you, cross the street. Do what you got to do. Turn back, go the other way. Go into a shop. Get help. Call the police. Or, just call the non-emergency number. Just say, look, there's a guy, he looks a bit dodgy, he's scaring me. Do what you got to do to survive, of course. But don't base it purely because there's an Indian guy sat there. What? Like, because that's what Matt Walsh just said. He goes, oh, well, you'd be called a racist if two white guys just sat there and crossed the street because the guy's there and he's black. Even if a guy was just sat there with his hood up, texting on his phone, like, and he's black. Okay, he sat there on his phone. Like, and then these right wingers talk about, masculinity and that. But you're being a little pussy by being scared of every single person that either has a hood up. Don't get me wrong, it's how the person's acting. If someone's just sat on their phone like this, I'm not too fussed. If they're all sat there like this, like hands in their pockets, and acting all shifted, and yet again, we do have a natural instinct, but it's not by looking at one color of something and going mad at it. Do you see animals in the trees, in the wild, going mad at bark on a tree just because it's brown? No, they know that it's just a tree, but a tree could still fall on them, could still be dangerous, right? And even if a tree has fallen, which I'm sure there must have been some bear that's been killed by a tree, do you think the bears start going nuts and killing all trees, trying to scrape all trees down? No, of course they don't.
Now, those of us whose minds have not been overtaken by the virus of leftism, we make these gut-level risk calculations all the time. And we should admit it.
And he doesn't know that. He don't realise we're not stupid. Every time we cross the road, we're making a calculated decision of survival. Every single time that we walk down the steps. Oh my days. Is he really suggesting that, we don't, for all you lefties out there that may not know, we do this all the time? He's so condescending. And it just makes him seem like a little bitch, if I'm honest.
Because there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, not only is there nothing wrong with it, but it's the right thing to do. So just as one of hundreds of potential examples from my own life, and any reasonable person, we all have hundreds of examples. So here's just a recent one for me. Recently, I was out driving with my son at night, coming from somewhere to my house.
Don't drive out at night with your son. There's black people. There might be a black guy. Don't do it. Don't do it.
But it was dark, and we needed gas. So I pulled into a gas station, and before I stopped at a pump, I noticed a couple of guys hanging around off to the side. These were young black males, both in hoodies, not pumping gas, apparently not engaging in any kind of legitimate gas station-related business. Now, did I know for sure that they were dangerous? Of course not.
To me, it sounds like they were trading something, you know what I'm saying? Not legal trading, let's just say that, which that would be suspicious. But again, don't need to say black man. There's different cultures that are massively into drugs and stuff, but he keeps rolling on with this black, and especially white people. White people, man, they're the ones with the white powder, bro. Just say this individual. He's making it about, he's basically using this guy's death, yeah? Sorry, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's using the guy that got killed, yeah, to have a rant and put fear about black people into people's minds. And that's messed up. And he says he's not doing that at the beginning, but he is. That's what he's doing. He's not actually sending these condolences out for, he said, oh, well, I'm sorry that this guy died, but that's just, standard written bullshit, man. It's not genuine. That ain't genuine, man.
They weren't visibly committing any crimes. They weren't doing anything that justified calling the police. They were just there. Now, maybe if I had pulled up to a pump and gotten out of my vehicle, they would have come over to me and talked to me about the gospel of Jesus Christ. Maybe they were out there fundraising for the Knights of Columbus. It's possible. Anything is possible. But the situation didn't.
It would be the same for me if I saw two white guys hooded up. Some people might just look and go, yeah, but Wesley, he's just describing their colour. Well, he did that at the beginning. Just say, okay, right, and they happen to be black. And I do think there is a thing about the way you phrase it, especially when you're doing online reporting, or even though he's not, I don't know, is he classed as a reporter? I don't know. He's more as supposed to be, don't know what he's classed as. I just feel like he's steering people in the wrong direction of how the world is supposed to be. You know, he's saying he wants the world to be a safer place. Well, that means we need to get on with each other. And what he's doing is using this situation, which was a devastatingly awful situation. He's basically saying if we protected ourselves more and stereotyped more and judged black people more, then we would protect ourselves. That is literally what he's saying. But he's sugarcoating it up in a fucked up way. So,
to me, I got a bad vibe. I didn't like the way it all looked. I had my son in the car with me. I'm not taking any chances, so I left. And the whole process of risk calculation took about 10 seconds. You pull in, didn't even stop the car. Pulled in and said, I don't like the look of this. I'll go somewhere else. Now, did I make stereotypical assumptions? Hell yes, I did. What else was I going to do? You can only work with the information you have immediately available. Was the assumption...
Okay, and I'll give him this. He probably did the right thing. If what he's saying is 100% accurate, he pulled into a gas station, he sees some dodgy stuff going on, that looks like they're trading dodgy things. You don't want to exactly get out of the car, start pumping gas, have to leave your car. He did the right thing. I actually agree with that. But again, my point is not because they were black. That's where my issue is with what he's saying.
Based entirely on race? No, obviously not. If I'd pulled in and seen a middle-aged black woman at a pump putting gas in her Camry or whatever, I wouldn't have been concerned. So my calculation was taking...
See, he gave his card away right there, man. Let me give you viewers a couple of seconds. What did he do wrong there? If I saw middle-aged, it has to be middle-aged. Can't be young. Why can't it be young? Say, for example, a young kid who was a basketballer, he just finished his scholarship, he's got his dreads out, like his little braids, not dreads, but braids, maybe down to here, like sort of from there to there, and he's walking, bouncing his basketball, going into the shop, and there's people coming out the shop, and they're like, oh, hey, Junior, oh, hey, and even people know him, you'd be scared because he's young. He said, oh, but if it was a middle age, and he said black woman, every other person that he's mentioned black in this video has been a man. Man, be scared of man, black men. But he goes, but it, you know, if it was a middle-aged old black woman.
Everything into account. Everything about the situation, the people, everything. Many different factors, including how they were dressed, what they're doing, the context, or in this case, not doing, as they were not pumping gas. But if I was a leftist...
He's more focused on their color rather than the actions. He has to keep bringing in the color. It is nothing to do with that. Get it through your damn head. There were two black people on the fucking moped or whatever. Cool. They were both the same color. It could have been a black and a white guy. Could have been a white and a white guy. Could have been a white and a Chinese guy. Like, you could have literally made exactly the same points you're making in this video and been 100% correct without mentioning anything to do with colour, or the fact that the person who got ended was a left-winger. You literally could have made a much more poignant, and I think much more powerful point, and a much less heartless point, because you have been heartless, because if those people, that woman who her partner died that day, she must look at your video and think, wow, so you're basically blaming us. And you would sit there and go, yeah, I am. I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying, you didn't make a good decision. Yeah, so you're blaming them. Stop bullshitting and just be real. Be real. Be straight up.
Then the fact that they were black males would have prevented me from running that risk calculation at all. I would have felt guilty for making assumptions based on stereotypes, however grounded in reality those stereotypes might be. I would have stopped the car, I would have gotten out, and maybe everything would have been fine. Or maybe I would have gotten carjacked with my child in the backseat. These are the risks that leftism would have you make. Now, late last month, a white female tech CEO in Baltimore named Pava Lapere was brutally beaten and murdered inside her apartment complex, allegedly by someone named...
See, look, lefties originally, it was about people being equal and reinforcing the fact that people should be equal. That's all it was originally. Same as this idea of woke. Look, it was basically just the idea of not being discriminatory towards black people. That's all it was. I think most people are woke. Most people don't believe in racism and hating someone just for the color of their skin, or, just because they have a different idea than you. unless it's really, really, really opposed to like religious beliefs and things like that. But again, religion normally teaches for us to show peace and love.
And Jason D. Billingsley is a black man with an extensive rap sheet that includes assault and rape.
Black again.
And yet he was still out on the streets, of course.
Black again gives the two sort of most stereotypical things, that was accused of assault and rape. But again, if you've been accused, you have the right to be out if there's not evidence enough to keep you in contempt of court. Not in contempt of court, in order for you to be put in remand, the judge has to rule you as a threat to society. You can't just take away someone's rights just because they're a black man, they're accused of a really bad crime. The judge would have had to make a call based on the evidence provided to him so far and gone, is there enough to actually, is he actually a threat? Is this his first time he's ever been arrested? All of these different factors. But I guarantee Matt Walsh is not going to say that.
But how did Billingsley get into the apartment complex? Well, the door...
And again, a rapist, again, it's not exclusive to black people. Don't know how many of you knew this, but it's not an exclusively black crime. Anyone can do it. Any sick fuck can do it.
Doors are secure and only residents can get inside. Well, according to investigators, LePere opened the door for Billingsley and let him into the building. He said that he forgot his key, and she believed him, or pretended to. And then after letting him in, she got into an elevator with this ominous-looking guy with neck tattoos. There's a guy with neck tattoos trying to get into what we assume is a higher income apartment complex because you got a CEO living there. And she sees this guy and says, oh yeah, he looks like he lives here, even though clearly he doesn't. A short time later, she was dead on the roof. Her body wasn't discovered for several days.
No, stop before, right, look. See, he never ever talks, and I've watched some of his videos to see if he does. He never talks about the standard white guy who comes, or the one that was like a school caretaker who ended up I can't say the word on YouTube, but you know the word I was about to say. Like a school taker that were children, and no one noticed for years. Kids were going missing. No one thought it was that caretaker because he was so sweet. The white guy, other kids that have gone missing, or people that have been killed, or women that have been killed and mutilated, and you don't ever hear about that. He's literally putting it down to that's in our soul, in our culture, in our core, and that's something I won't have.
No, LePere's politics, but as a white female tech CEO in Baltimore, we can probably assume that she wasn't exactly the sort of person who would walk around in a MAGA hat.
Hang on. Well, there's a lot of white people that walk around in MAGA hats. There's a lot of white women that have done some crazy shit to their husbands. I mean, no offense, the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation, before that came around in the courts, you wouldn't have thought that was going to ever happen, yet they look like a completely normal white couple. Even though some, people that know and follow them all the time would have been like, yeah, but I knew that they had issues way before they had issues. Fair enough. Cool. I'm not saying that you didn't. What I'm saying is, to the average eye, in news magazines and stuff, they always say, oh, yeah, Amber and Johnny's got problems, Brad Pitt and whoever had problems at the time. Media does that, so I don't pay too much attention to it. But again, my point is they all look like normal white people. And yet, then you find out look at Jeffrey Epstein. He was fucking famous for how many years, and then look what he did with all that, his island. And then look at, what was the other one? Jimmy Savile. White guys. Does Matt Walsh mention these guys and say how disgusting and nasty they were? No, he would sit there and go, they were nasty people, but he won't call them nasty white people. He won't say they make me disgusted to be white. No. They were just guys that were just off, a couple of bad fish in the barrel, and we just, don't worry about them ones, because the rest of us white people are all great. That's what it feels like he's saying. And if I'm wrong, tell me. I mean, if you've got a good argument, not just fucking hating on me because you like Matt Walsh or something, I think I've made some good rebuttals to what he said. So give me some actual, knowledge behind what you're saying.
And so we can also safely assume that a certain amount of white guilt led her to open the door for this guy with neck tattoos who didn't have a key for the building, and then get in an elevator with him. She didn't want to stereotype. So instead, she died. Another tragedy.
See, again, you don't know this. Maybe she was in a rush with her shopping, and he just goes, "Oh, can you let me in? Sorry, I forgot my key." And she goes, "I've got to get in." Yeah, okay, yeah, not a problem. Yeah. And or maybe she just approached, and where he was very confident. People can be very confident and very persuasive. And he said, "Sorry, I've really forgot my key." And again, maybe she didn't judge him, but you're saying that you should judge black people because he had a neck tattoo, because he was black. You've given 3 different examples, even though this was supposed to be about saving your life at the beginning with the example of the guy getting stabbed. But all you've done is basically make it a racial hate video and just named the title about saving your life like it's a positive thing, but it's not. Like, so if you see a black guy with a neck tattoo, he must be a thug. Because one guy did it. Mate, there's other guys that are famous that have tattoos that have not done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. A lot of musicians have tattoos. A lot of white musicians have tattoos. Full body tattoos. But you don't say nothing about them. But a black man had a tattoo on his neck. Well, Machine Gun Kelly has a tattoo on his neck. There's loads of artists that have tattoos on their neck. So many. Loads of females too. And yet, not a word. And he didn't even give a contrast. He didn't say, and white people have done some serious crimes too, and give some about some serious. He just gave it one side. Blacks. He gave 3 different black male examples. And they were all negative and all the worst of the worst crimes. One was murder. One was to do with doing a deal. And then one was rape and murder. So... And then he sits there and tries to give the argument of, yeah, but if I say any of this, I'll be seen as a racist. He never said he wasn't. He just said, I'll be seen, or, if you say any of this, you'll be seen as a racist. Trying to sort of mentally manipulate you to think he's trying to say, well, I'm not. I'm just saying facts or saying points. No, you're not.
All the more tragic is that it is all so easily avoidable.
Easily avoidable.
All of it can be avoided. But first, you have to free your mind from leftism. Thanks for checking out this video.
Not being funny, that's like me turning around and saying someone died in a car crash and that was easily avoidable. You shouldn't have bought a car. Shouldn't have looked at that car because it was the wrong colour. It was the wrong make. And if you didn't buy the car, that wouldn't have happened. But guess what? You got in a car accident because you got in your friend's car and bang, you got killed. Or you was walking down the street and a car swerved into you and killed you on the path. Car accident. Don't give me that shit, Matt Walsh, about, oh, well, because they were black, you should have, been more cautious, or because he had a tattoo on his neck, you should have been more cautious. Some people just don't have judgmental bone in their body, and other people don't have the protection factor, their instinct to judge a person correctly. And it's not because of their colour, it's because I've seen people where I just get a bad vibe about them. And that is real, but it's not in any way because of the colour of their skin. It's just purely because of the way they are, and sometimes you just feel it. Sometimes I've looked at someone and not even been able to tell what it is. And I've gone, what is it? Is it the jacket? No. Is it the skin colour? No. Is it the this? Is it that? And I'm like, I can't figure out what it is, but just something is off about them. So, yeah, that was a long video. I've said most of what I got to say. I hope this Matt Walsh actually does some serious thinking. I mean, I know he's a lot more successful than I am. I ain't even successful, but it doesn't mean that your opinion doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean that you don't have an intelligent opinion, especially when you know what the hell you're talking about. And as a guy who's on the other side of the spectrum, a mixed race guy, I can speak on it, and Matt Walsh should understand that. He needs to understand that not all of us are horrible, nasty human beings that rape, kill, sell drugs, and all of this stuff. Some of us just try and get by, and just live and try and live a happy life and get our dreams off the ground. And when you got people like Matt Walsh making everybody scared of us, it's even harder for a business owner to want to hire us if people like him are going out saying we're all fucking all of these things. So You know, sometimes maybe he's got to look in the mirror and realise the effect he's having. He's not really doing much good in this video, and I think that's the end of the video. Like,
video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast,
yeah, he's just plugging himself in. So, what can I say, mate? That's that. That is that. Thanks for watching. Peace. What a bell end.